Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to the temple for Shabbat morning services. So happy you were able to join us here physically or on the live stream. Our services this morning on this historic day of Juneteenth, the day of liberation for the last African-American slaves here after the Civil War. Our services will be led from Mishkan Tefillah, the Prayer Book of Reform Judaism. If you don't have a copy, there's a digital copy in your flip book, or there's one sitting by your seats, I'm hoping, because you brought it in with you as you came. Our opening song is Ma Yafeh Hayom, How Wonderful Is This Day. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Special prayer for Juneteenth. Our God, compassionate Redeemer, Emancipator, Liberator of the oppressed, downtrodden, and enslaved. You heard our ancestors' cries as slaves in Egypt, freed us from harsh labors with an outstretched arm, delivered us from bondage, took us to be your people, and brought us to our promised land. You heard the cry of black slaves in this country, freed them officially on this day with an outstretched arm. May you continue to deliver us from bondage of injustice. Take us to be your people, treated by all with love and equity, and bring us to a moment when the land fulfills its promise. Ever listening, attentive one, hear us now. The journey has been long, the steps arduous and ongoing, but we celebrate freedom on this day with love, memory, and honor. Resolved to be a force for positive change, and fervently we hope for freedom still yet to be realized. As you have shown us compassion, help us to be compassionate. As you have liberated us, help us stand against injustice everywhere. As you have delivered us, help us in the fight for freedom for all who are still enslaved. Remember us, hear us, and be with us always. And let us say together, Amen.
Amen.
We continue now with the singing of Ma Tovu, which you can find on page 74. Turn now to page 76 for a prayer for health and wellness. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It's well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar u'mafli la'asot. We rise now on page 108 for our call to worship, Baruch Hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma'arabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'chochma asita, mala'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha. Tit barach Adonai Eloheinu al shavach ma'aseh yadecha, v'al me'orei or sh'asita yifarucha sela. Or chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkeh chulanu mehera le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer ha'meorot. Page 113. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said. And light blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving us as we climbed and fell back and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'amo Yisrael ba'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad.
Please be seated and join me in the words of the Ve'ahavta on page 116. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol modecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shofbecha u'v'kumecha. U'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beininecha. Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. L'ma'an tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart. And you shall keep them in your heart. And you shall meditate on them day and night, that you may observe to do them. And you shall not depart from them, lest you forget, twinkle between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates and upon your gates. Teach them faithfully unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise, and when you rise.
Page 123. And what is my lifespan? I'm like a man gone out of Egypt. The Red Sea parts, I cross on dry land, 2 walls of water, one on my right and one on my left. Pharaoh's army and his horsemen behind me. Before me the desert, perhaps the promised land. This is my lifespan.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורות הילות אוסף אלה, נורות הילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש.
We rise on page 124 for the tefillah.
Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Sfatai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Sfatai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 Sfatai Tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, God of Sarah, God of Rebekah, God of Rachel, and God of Leah, the great, mighty, and awesome God, transcendent God, who bestows loving kindness, creates everything out of love, remembers the love of our fathers and our mothers, and brings redemption to their children's children for the sake of the divine name. Sovereign, deliverer, helper, and shield, blessed are you, Adonai, Sarah's helper, Abraham's shield. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. We continue responsively at the top of page 127. Our fathers and mothers prayed, each through their own experience of God, each through their own vision, which we have come to share. Abraham, with the fervor of justice, pleaded the cause of cities. Sarah, in the pain of wandering, dared to hope for new life. Isaac, meditating alone in the field, lifted his eyes to find love. Rebekah asked for the ability to discern God's call. Jacob climbed the rungs of his night into heaven, seeking destiny. Leah dreamed of love, and Rachel sought harmony. We, as they, seek God's presence. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham. You are forever mighty, Adonai. You give life to all. You rain dew upon us. You sustain life through love, giving life to all. Through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty act? Who resembles you, O sovereign, who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully giving life to all? Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו.
אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכינו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישנינו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם,
ימלוך אדוני לעולם.
אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושיחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
To all generations we declare your greatness, and for all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Join us in Yismachu, page 132.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh L'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
Please turn to our prayer for peace, which can be found on page 140. Grant peace, goodness and blessing, kindness and mercy to us and all your people Israel. Bless us, our Creator, all of us together, through the light of your presence. Truly, through the light of your presence, Adonai, our God, you gave us a Torah of life, the love of kindness, justice, and blessing, mercy, life, and peace. May you see fit to bless your people Israel at all times and at every hour with your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamborech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom.
In vachesed verachamim
Please take a moment now for silent prayer. Turn now to page 253. The words of the Mishaberach, our prayer for hope and for healing, so appropriate on this day. We offer it as a prayer for healing for all those in need of healing, of body and of soul, for those in hospitals and nursing homes receiving care at home, for those we love, for those we care for, and for those who care for us, that we might be a world that heals and builds together a world of peace. Please join us in the words of Mishaberach.
Find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor abracha bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Continue now with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of the Torah, which can be found on page 245. Secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Echad Eloheinu Gadol, Adonai Kadosh Shemo. Our God is one, Adonai is great, holy is God's name.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema. Lecha Adonai Hagidula, V'Hagivura, V'Hativirin, V'Hanitzach, V'Hod. Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai ha'mamlacha, V'hamid ma'aseh, L'chol derosh.
Please be seated and join me in the blessing before the reading of the Torah on page 250. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vahed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
So this week's portion is called Hukat. We're in the midst of the book of Numbers at chapter 21. I'm beginning on verse 10. Vayisu b'nei Yisrael vayachanu ba'avot. And the children of Israel went forth, and they encamped at Avot. Vayisu me'avot vayachanu ba'ei ha'evarim b'midbar, asher al pnei Moav. Mimizrach ha'shemesh misham ne'asu vayachanu b'nachalat zarad. This is the encampments of the people of Israel as they went forth from the edge of Moab and into the west as the sun sets. And from there they went to a place called Nachalat Zared, the stream of Zared. Nisham Nesa'u Vayachanu Me'ever Arnon. And from there they went forth and they encamped again. They rested in the area of Arnon. Asher b'midbar, that was in the wilderness. Hayotzei mikvul ha'emori, on the border of the Amorites. Ki Arnon bigvul Moav, vein Moav, vein ha'emori, because Arnon is on the border between Moab and the Amorites. Al kain ye'amar b'sefer milchamot Adonai, and thus it says in the book of the law of the wars of God, et vaheb basufa. We don't know what that means. That's what my drash is about. Et vaheb basufa, ve'et hanachalim Arnon, and on the rivers of Arnon. We are wandering still in the wilderness on that long journey to the promised land. On this day, 155 years ago, June 19, 1866, General Gordon Granger led his Union troops into Galveston, Texas, on the furthest outpost of the Confederacy, and issued General Order Number 3, finally freeing the last slaves almost 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It was a long road to freedom, but on Juneteenth, the last of the enslaved people of our nation were set free. Celebrations on this day began in Texas and have spread across the country since that day, until this day, the first celebration of Juneteenth as a federal holiday signed into law by President Biden just 2 days ago. The American Jewish poet of that age, Emma Lazarus, famously said, "Until all are free, we are none of us free." And though slavery has been abolished, freedom and equality for all people in this land is still a distant dream. We are wandering still in the wilderness on that long journey to the promised land. This week we read from Bamidbar, in the wilderness, the book of Numbers, chapter 19 through 22. It's the story of rebellion and redemption as we traveled along our way, and here in this week's portion, Parshat Chukat, we read how the Israelites had to battle against many nations and peoples during their long journey through the wilderness. And in this brief section that I just read, the Torah mentions that the book of the Wars of Adonai speaks of Et Vahev Basufa. We have no record of this book of the Wars of Adonai. It's mentioned nowhere else in the Torah but here, and we have no evidence that it ever existed or that we have any pieces left of it. But even leaving that aside, these last Hebrew words are a mystery. It's not clear at all what they mean. But like many mysteries, in the wondering, there are many lessons to be learned. The usual English translation simply spells out the Hebrew words, Waheb Basufa, and as if they were somehow some ancient place names from a long ago age. This would be a simple answer, and since the surrounding text is filled with foreign names of places where we encamped from one station to the next on our journey to the wilderness. But we're Jewish after all, so the simple answer will never do. And particularly when there's an opening for a midrash or a more understanding of this mystery. There's a tradition that the mysterious word vahev is related to the Hebrew word for love, ahva, and basufa means at its end, which would require the adjustment of just a single letter, making it basufa. Put these two words together, and et vahev basufa could be understood to mean, in the end, there was love. Now, when you read that in the context of the book of the Wars of Adonai and the struggles of our people on their journey from slavery to freedom, one might wonder how we could possibly use "in the end there is love" as a translation for these words. However, that depends very much on what you mean by the word love and what it means in the Bible, and it doesn't mean what you think it means. Rabbi Yochacham Prince, a civil rights leader from the 1960s who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and spoke by his side on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March on Washington, explained the meaning of love in the Bible like this. You can't be a rabbi unless you love people. You don't have to like them, but you have to love them. God says, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." God doesn't say, "Thou shalt like them." I've loved all the people who I've come in contact with, even those with whom I have disagreed. But I do this because God says that I have to love people. Speaking from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, just before Dr. King would deliver his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, it was Rabbi Prince who said, "Our ancestors taught us thousands of years ago that when God created the first human being, God created everybody's neighbor. Neighbor is not a geographical term, it's a moral concept. It means our collective responsibility for the preservation of human dignity and integrity. We are wandering still in the wilderness on that long journey to the promised land." It's easy enough to lose faith along the way, along that long path towards freedom. Easy enough to become frustrated with our slow progress, to argue among ourselves, and to begin to see those who disagree with us as enemies. But here in Parshat Chukat, our ancestors certainly did. Easy enough to lose sight of our collective responsibilities, our covenant with one another, to seek liberty and justice for all. Easy enough to claim what is mine instead of recognizing what is ours, the fight for our freedom, and be less concerned with the fight for theirs. Which is why we are commanded to love thy neighbor as thyself. Which is why we must be reminded that until all we are free, we are none of us free. We are wandering still in the wilderness on that long journey to the promised land. May we walk with good companions as we journey forth towards freedom. And may we reach that promised land together where all God's children can be free.
that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy light, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Please join me at the bottom of page 250 as we say the blessing for after the reading of the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Lizot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael. Lizot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael. Al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe, b'yad Moshe. Al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe, b'yad Moshe. Lizot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael. Lizot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael.
We rise now on page 283 for the Elena. Please join me as we read together in the middle of page 283. Let us adore the ever-living God and render praise unto you, who spreads out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Please join me as we read top of page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. It has been said Adonai will be sovereign over all the earth. On that day Adonai will be one, and God's name will be one, and God's name will be one.
Page 288. When I die, give what is left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So all that is left of me is love. Give me away. This week in our congregation, we remember particularly the names of John A. Danella, Shirley Tanchester Reese, Isidore Getzel, Martin Goldman, Gerald Berman, Lori Kupferman, Abraham Bogoslovsky, Ruth Prezant, David Radman, Wendy Brill, Frieda Shapiro, Arkady Ochnetner, Morris Rotman, Celia Morgulin, Alan J. Bass, Erwin Waterman, Ida Schellenberg, Ted Perlmutter, Dorothy Kramer, Estelle Garman, Brent Martin, Geraldine Lurie, Carolyn Grossman, Podina Eisenbeck, William Bledsoe, Mary Graves, Abram Ochnetter, Harry Wellington, Maxine Levy, Edna Lefkowitz, Julia Klein, Mark Yesman, Shirley Goodman, Leon Met, Donald Linker, Richard Guernsey, Sally Sachs Enoch, Marion Bloom Loeb, Irene Zimmerman, Bill Tarnable, and two died in recent days, Carol Friedman and Rita Rouse. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for blessing as we rise for Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba, ba'alma divrach chilutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba m'vorach le'olam u'mei u'maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'richu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say together, amen.
Amen.
Our closing song is Oseh Shalom. Please join us.
Oseh Shalom Bilroma, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Oseh Shalom bimroma, u'ya'aseh Shalom, amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, amen. Oseh Shalom
כל במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
We are wandering still in the wilderness on that long journey to the promised land. God be with us upon our way. Carry us forward this day and every day. May we be together the builders of a world of justice, peace, and freedom for us all. We ask God's blessing on all who gather here, on all who have joined us, and the community that we share. Bruchim atem b'vochem, uvruchim atem b'tzeitechem, me'ata v'ad olam, hallelujah. Blessed are you who have come here this day. Blessed be you as you go upon your way. From this time forth and forevermore, may you bless the name of God. Amen. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Happy Juneteenth.